I personally am extremely positive about the future of golf. It's a fascinating game, as we all know. It's certainly attracted our interest and our participation, and it's been around for over 500 years. It will continue to be around. The teaching process has been refined so much that there seems to be a greater need for expanded practice facilities, that people, memberships at clubs, at public facilities, resort facilities. It used to be you sort of went out, you may hit a couple balls and you go play. Now it seems to be there's extraordinary amounts of time spent on the practice facilities working on shots. I think from Dave's and my perspective, if the practice facility can afford that opportunity to literally practice all your long shots and things, but also afford you the chance to practice some very unusual type shots that you might actually encounter on the golf course, then that's the best of all worlds. These new alternatives, the chances to play shorter courses, the chances to play hybrid type courses like you're about to have here at Farmington, which is not necessarily a par 3 course, it's not a regulation course, it's somewhere in between. The chances to participate on facilities like that, personally, I think are extremely promising.
When I walked out there today, I used to walk out there and I used to go, God, we got to do something more. We got to do something more. We got to, we need this shot here. We got to do this or whatever. I went out there this morning and just walked around with Bill for an hour. And I go, there's some darn many shots out here now, practice shots, fun shots. And we're in the business of managing expectations. We're not in the business of sitting around and saying, well, we've got it figured out. Things may change out there, but it has met my expectations.
It's absolutely mutual. I mean, it is, as with our golf courses, we hope that each one comes out with a very strong individual character, an identity that sets it doesn't set it apart meaning it's better than. It just sets it apart meaning it's a little bit different. It just, when you're there, you're someplace not quite like everywhere else that you may have been. And from my perception, with what's happening here at Farmington, the hybrid course, the East course, whatever you wish to call it, it has that type of identity. It's unlike anything else that I have seen. Again, not saying it's better than. There's certainly places more expansive, more expensive, and but this one's pretty neat. It's the combination of all of them together that makes the experience. And I think for me personally, it's, again, I referred to the whole facility as being somewhat different, or having a strong personal identity. I think also for me is that it gives the professional staff and the members and their families the opportunity to either teach or experience some different types of thoughts in the process of playing golf. Is it straightforward in places where what you see is exactly what you'd get, and that's the shot you want to hit from point A to point B in the air, knowing in the exact yardage? Yes, you can do that. Are there places where you could look at that and say point A to point B is this yardage, but there's another way to get there. I can play from point A to point C over here, which will get me to B. And for us, I think that's interesting. I know some extraordinary players that I've talked to that say one of the greatest disciplines playing golf is being able to have the patience and the discipline to play away from the hole. And there's some of that out there. There are little quirky things that as you play the golf course, and whether it's on number one, there's a little gun sight trophy thing that's over the bunker on the left, way short of the green, that you could look at the green and say, absolutely, I'm going to play all the way down there in the air. And you can do that. But the green goes away from you a bit, and you may find that a little more elusive. If you were to take family members out or something, even a very small child who once could just get the ball airborne and get it over that big imposing looking bunker, I think you'd be much to great surprise find out the ball will find its way trundling down and going onto the green, even though it didn't get anywhere near the green in the air. To us, that's interesting golf. And again, it just gives you different ways to think about it, different ways depending on your abilities and your strength level to go about playing and hopefully having a great time in the process.
Well, the goal was just to play golf throughout the entire property and not play a golf hole and walk to play another golf hole. Just play golf.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. You took what the land gave you. In this case at Farmington, Dave and I went out there and we walked that site, the original East Course 9. And given the goals that were presented to us by the club, meaning a more expansive practice area, teaching area, some short game area, and whatever's left over we'll put into some interesting golf holes, we just tried to put those puzzle pieces together. And as Dave perfectly said, it was just our concept of, all right, here's where the practice is going to be, here's where the teaching area is going to be, and the short game area, all those things. Now we have all this left over. What's the most interesting fashion to lay out some golf holes and not waste ground and as Dave said, be able to just play your way around through there, whether the hole was 50 or 60 yards long or 150 or 60. And so the end result is just what we saw as what we hope will be an interesting way to do that.
To me, it just looks like golf. Like the target greens out there, there's not 10 of them, there's 5 of them. And the last one we put in over there by the railroad tracks on the south side, it's like, well, if we didn't have this hill of dirt over here, we're going to miss this. So I said, let's build a green over here. It's a wonderful practice area.
And to me, it just looks like Farmington. It feels like Farmington. Early on, I think we referred to it as practice in a park, and it does have that feel to it. It's kind of like this area where we're sitting at this moment, the beautiful landscape and rolling hills and trees and vistas, and out there, it's somewhat the same. It's rolling hills, vistas, and beautiful landscape. And oh, by the way, there's some greens and there's some tees, and you can practice. Or in the case of the course, you can play. there's enough nuance to the golf course. There's enough elusive areas for the best of players. Rob could go play, I think, and it would keep his interest. He could take one of his very early, not necessarily ranked beginning, pupil, but someone who's gotten to the point they can get the ball airborne and that type thing. I think he could take them out there, and I think they might find it quite interesting as well. And that's a pretty broad spectrum to cover, but it has the potential, I think, to do that.
I think the other thing too, when I'm out there, as long as every golfer that goes out there doesn't just feel like you can just necessarily fly the ball right to the hole every time. Like Bill said, you can aim away from it and you can think a little bit. Not on every hole. That can get repetitive and over the top. It's just going to be really fun golf. You aim away from the hole to get to the hole because the ground's severe. And I worry a little bit, I go, God, at least I'm 54 and not 24, so we've calmed it down a lot. But we've got two or three spots out there where you got to think a little.
And one of the directives from the club was that you were not in any way afraid or against or opposed to some quirkiness. And the site in and of itself is kind of quirky. And so we asked the question a number of times, and each time the answer came back in varying forms, but each time the answer basically was, no, you can go for that. You can do some things that some people might consider to be quirky or maybe on the edge or something, but we're okay with that. And as Dave said, there's some of that out there. We don't think it's to any extreme, but just enough to keep it, I was about to say entertaining, that some people could say, well, that must be goofy, but to keep it interesting and enjoyable. So.
What's been so fun here is we've had men that started out in the industry with Bill Coore in the mid-'70s. Like for example at Waterwood National, Rod Whitman started with Bill Coore. Dan Proctor is working right now, and we're bringing, and that's what I was excited about, was we're bringing different people in, and each member has probably a different interpretation of exactly how they deal with a particular piece of ground, but we've had a collection of the A team, and they all haven't stayed forever, but they've come in and just had a great time and made their contribution, and that's what's been so much fun for me. Just so much fun.
Absolutely right. I mean, it's the guys who have passed through here working on this project, unless someone does a lot of research, most members will never know the talent that travel through what you're going to experience as a practice area and a short course. But Dave mentioned Rod Whitman. Rod Whitman's the architect of Cabot Links Golf Course in Nova Scotia. One of the best golf courses absolutely one of the best in the world, but certainly one of the best, very best in Canada. He was here for a bit. Dave, of course, and his credentials are well known in the world of golf, but choosing to come here, it's been neat. It's been neat to see what some people might say was, well, gee, would that be considered kind of a secondary project to some bigger project someplace? And no, it wouldn't. It's been very important to us and extremely important to Dave.
I chose Farmington because I believed in the potential and opportunity here to do something really special. And so that's my goal.
We've worked with Dave for so many years, and Dave knew he had the choice. It was his choice to go to whichever of our projects he chose, and he chose Farmington. He said, I want to go there. I think it can be really special, and it's different. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be different, and I'd like to be a part of it. So I know that may not mean too much to the folks who may see this, but to Ben and to me, it was a huge factor. I mean, for this man to say, I want to go there. That's my first choice. So, and here he is. This has the potential to be really interesting, a really, I think, interesting and I hope fun way to fulfill the need to be able to enjoy and participate in golf, and yet do it in a more compact fashion with regard to the time constraints and even the things like balls and things like, you don't lose your ball, you go play, and you play quickly, and hopefully you play in such an enjoyable fashion that to quote Mike Kaiser, when you walk off the last green, you want to just go to the first tee and start all over again.